What's up, guys? So I created this page, a lot of it, large part because I want to tell my story, and I also want to be able to advocate for trans individuals of all ages, and I also want to have a platform to, educate people on issues that I feel strongly about. So if you want the TLDR, essentially, when I was 13 years old, I had these feelings about, wanting to be a member of the opposite sex for a very long time at this point. And like when you are approaching like 12, 13, for a lot of people anyways, like I think the majority of people are hitting puberty around that age. And like I found myself fascinated at that age with like having like a flat crotch. So it was just through experimentation that I figured out that. So if you try to tuck everything it back flat in between your legs, right? If you sit down on your testes, it's going to hurt. So like that just led to experimentation where like I would try to just tuck the phallus in between and then like the testes in front, and then just one day by mistake one of them just popped up in there, okay? And like it kind of burned and it really scared me, and I pushed it back out really quick. But after I figured out that I could do that, it was pretty much all over, because like I dealt with the burning sensation until it didn't burn anymore. I did not have a safe person to discuss the feelings, the emotions that I was feeling, or the way that I was feeling about my puberty and my body, or the things that I was going through. And I can't help but wonder, as an adult, how different my life could have been had I had somebody at an early age to advocate for me, or to educate me about this stuff. I'm not saying like every kid should be educated on like obviously not, but like case by case, like if somebody, like if you have a kid that is transgender dysphoria, is a very serious mental health condition, and like if you leave it untreated as it was left untreated for me, like, and your kid doesn't feel safe discussing it with you, they will probably figure out how to do things out on their own, or at least that was the case with me. Like I figured it out and I kept it a secret, and it led to nothing good for my life. Sex education for me was in the ninth grade. For my school, my opinion, like kids are going through like obviously like sex education as far as like what it is, like what your body is going through, all of this stuff. Like I don't remember being taught any of that stuff when it was actually important. It was only after the fact. But I personally think that age appropriate sex education is important. And like, if I also think it's important that if like that queer youth have a resource, if they're in a school to go to if they don't feel safe with their parents. Like when you hear parents talk about parents' rights related to trans people, they're just all that they're advocating for is they don't want their kids, like if their kids are trans, they want them to stay in the closet. They don't want them to be able to use their preferred name or preferred gender, preferred pronouns. Essentially, they want to stuff them in the closet until they're adults, and I think it's wrong. I suffered for a lot of years as a result of that type of mistreatment, and I think it's wrong. And anyways, in 1996 is when I was 13 years old. That's when I was in 7th grade, and that's when like I became really aware of like the differences. Like that was when everybody was like hitting puberty, if I remember correctly, and that's when I really started to notice the differences between boys and girls, and where I really started to feel like a very strong sense of gender dysphoria. And that was when my grades plummeted, and like my parents just couldn't figure out why I was like not interested in life at all. And unfortunately for me, my parents strongly discouraged any type of mental health care or mental health treatment. They were like of the opinion that, mental health drugs would just change you, or that it was like, their doctors were going to manipulate you somehow. It was basically boomer talk, and that was what was instilled into me as a child, and it took like quite a while to get out of that into adulthood. And also of note, in 1996, the internet existed, but it was extremely slow, and it was on like ancient computers, and it was heavily monitored. So like If you had internet in your house in 1996, it was most definitely dial-up internet, which would be 28 kilobytes a second or a 56K modem if you're lucky. Very few places had access to high-speed internet back then, and even if you did have access to high-speed internet, the internet, there was like not really much to see. I'll show you what it looked like. So this is an example of a web page loading in 1996 or 1995 that I found on YouTube, but this is an accurate representation of what it was like to wait for a web page to load on in 1996 if you had internet at home. So I honestly I don't think Gen Z could survive. I don't think like a lot of kids could survive this. Do you imagine your internet loading this slow? This is exactly how it was, y'all. And to be clear, this is what a typical web page looked like in 95, 96. Most web pages were text. Web pages that did have images loaded very slowly. And there wasn't like web personalities, there wasn't vloggers, there was no streaming video whatsoever. And I'm sorry if everybody gets sick of hearing about the 90s. I actually love to talk about the 90s, so. My father had a office in our house back then in 1996, and he had a computer with internet access, dial-up internet, and I remember using the internet and like not being aware of browser histories. Luckily or unluckily for me, I did not look up anything about being trans. I was actually looking up like witchcraft because like I was trying to find like a spell. This was like child brain thing, okay? So, in my defense, like it was child brain thing, and I was like trying to find like a magic spell to fix this problem that I was having. But like, don't even get me started. That went into like I like after that happened, like I heard about it from not only my father and my mother, but like multiple aunts and uncles, my grandmother and grandfather about witchcraft and how they had been involved with it and how it was wrong and how it was scary and all this like and I lost like all trust for my father when that happened. I was traumatized. But yeah, like I never trusted him again after that shit. So I'm just like saying like if you're like as a parent, if you're watching this, don't do that shit to your kids because that was fucked up. I think kids in 2024 might be a little bit spoiled with the internet and you know how accepted they are versus 90 like versus like kids in the 90s. But that's not to say that we don't have a lot of work to do and that we aren't currently under attack. But there was like, when I was in school, there was like no protections against like bullying or anything like that. There was like no kind of LGBT advocacy, anything like that. And like, if I'm being completely real, it does make me a little bit jealous that you guys get that shit. It makes me feel like I was born a little bit too early. But anyways, I hope to educate and entertain and, hopefully advocate through these stories that have accumulated over many years of being a dedicated trans person. I do try to keep things unscripted, so my videos may be of mixed quality. I will say that, but you know, I I do want to be real with you guys, as real as possible, and I feel like if I go scripting, it will be less real maybe, but I don't know, maybe I will script things in the future. Anyways, I hope you guys all have a great day. I will see you guys later. Peace.